Lockout means the closing of a place of employment, or the suspension of work, or the refusal by an employer to continue to employ any number of persons employed by him. Strike is a weapon in the hands of the labor to force the management to accept their demands. Similarly, lockout is a weapon in the hands of the management to coerce the labor to come down in their demands relating to the conditions of employment. Lockout is the keeping of labor away from the work by an employer with a view to restrict their claim. There are four ingredients in the lockout. The first one has three components, that is, there should be an act. And what kind of act? That is, 1. Temporary closing of a place of employment by the employer, or the second, suspension of work by the employer, or the third, refusal by an employer to continue to employ any number of persons employed by him. Now, the second ingredient, the above mentioned act of the employer, should be motivated by coercion. And the third ingredient, an industry as defined in the Industrial Dispute Act. Now, the fourth ingredient is a dispute in such industry. Now, in Sri Ramachandra Spinning Mills versus State of Madras, 1956, in this case, the Madras High Court held that in the view that whatever be the circumstance in which the employer may find himself placed and whatever may be the strength of the agencies which forced him to the step and however important he may be to avoid the result, if the employer closes the place of employment or suspend work on his premises, a lockout would come into existence. Lockout and layoff. Lockout is an act on the part of the employer taken to coerce or to pressure the labor. Layoff is for trade reasons beyond the control of the employer, that is not an intentional act. Lockout is due to industrial disputes and continues during the period of dispute. Layoff is not connected with a dispute with the workman. Lockout and retrenchment. 1. Lockout is temporary, retrenchment is permanent. 2. In lockout, the relationship of employer and employee is only suspended, it does not come to an end. In retrenchment, such a relationship is severed at the instance of the employer. Third, lockout is with a motive to coerce the workman. The intention of retrenchment is to dispense with surplus labor. 4. Lockout is due to and during an industrial dispute, whereas in case of retrenchment, there is no such dispute. Lockout and closure. Lockout is temporary, closure is permanent. Lockout is a weapon of coercion in the hands of the employer. Closure is generally for trade reasons. Lockout is during an industrial dispute, while in the case of closure, there need not be any dispute.